Right,
Okay.
so we're connected. Let's start this class. Okay, great. So, all set? Richard, great. Everyone, welcome to our global class, another global class. Welcome Bangladesh. Well, welcome San Diego. There is our map, and our director, Richard, student here, has, preset straight. So San Diego on the... It's okay. Do you want to try again?
You want to go to the map?
Sure. Okay. So, welcome. So, welcome to our global class today. There you see the world. We have 4 locations from around the world for this class, as always. Welcome first to our guests from St. Petersburg in Russia. As excellent. Thank you. Welcome, of course, to Bangladesh, Dhaka, and Jacob is going to go the other way. Go past, east of India. There we go. There's Dhaka and Bangladesh. Then there's the guest from San Diego in the U.S. Thank you, Jacob. Lovely. And then there is us in Durham College in Oshawa, Canada. So this is, truly a global class. And as you can see, we have a few little tools, state-of-the-art tools that allow us to move around a little bit. You can see our tables here on wheels because, this is a time in history when things are moving pretty fast. So we want to stay ahead of things. So anyways, welcome everybody. And today's topic that we're going to explore is essentially what is a worldview and different worldviews. And we posted some material on the Global Class website from Professor McDaniel's, one of his books, A Communication Between Cultures. We're going to give the class over to him very shortly, and he will do a brief presentation, and then we're going to have a discussion about what a worldview is and why a worldview is so important. And we really are blessed once again to have Professor McDaniel join us. He's a world authority on intercultural communication. He's co-authored and authored many books and journal articles, has taught in different universities around the world, in the East, in Japan. He spent quite a bit of time there. He's taught in the West, in Texas, where he's from. He's now teaching at San Diego State University in California, where he is today. And like many of our guests that we have on the global class, he has offered to do this for free because he believes in the idea that it's necessary to be communicating globally with young people about these global issues today. So I really welcome him, and I'm looking forward to having a discussion with him. The only thing I'd like to say before we get going with Professor McDaniel's presentation is there is a worldview that maybe we will not discuss immediately, but I would like to introduce. There will be many different worldviews, from sort of scientific worldviews, indigenous worldviews, and Professor McDaniel will talk about those. But there's one type of worldview that is very new, and I would call it the overview, or the overview effect. And that is, we are all living at a time right now where we can see the planet as one whole organism. And many are starting to say that this is perhaps the most important worldview of all, which is we now can see the planet and understand it whole. And we actually have a student here in my class who has started a sort of a smaller organization here called the Blue Dot Movement in Oshawa, as well as in Guelph, which is a city near Oshawa. And the Blue Dot Movement is about trying to understand how to deal with the planet as a whole, particularly its environmental problems. And I'd like to, before we just start, Ed, if it's okay, Mackenzie, to just introduce to the students in Dhaka and Bangladesh, as well as in St. Petersburg, and also, Ed, what the Blue Dot Movement is. Because the Blue Dot Movement is about this global overview, this new type of worldview that has come about because in the last 50 or 60 years, we have had space development that has allowed us to see the planet and photograph the planet whole. And that has given us an enormous amount of evidence that shows us we are all on one planet together now. We have evidence. So Mackenzie's going to speak to this a little bit, and then Ed, I'll give the class over to you, okay? So here, Mackenzie, just want to tell the rest of, what the Blue Dot Movement is. And there's information on the Global Class website about the Blue Dot Movement, and some of the students in Bangladesh, as well as in St. Peter's, may want to contact Mackenzie later and talk about this. So, Mackenzie, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mackenzie. So basically, the Blue Dot Movement is it's a nationwide movement that was started by the David Suzuki Foundation. But what we have to do here in Canada is people, activists from across the country are in charge of starting up their own Blue Dot movements in their own cities. So I'm personally in charge of two, one here in Oshawa and one where I grew up in Guelph. And basically, in Canada, we do not have the right to live in a healthy environment, and many countries around the world do acknowledge this. Actually, 110 countries do have the right to live in a healthy environment, and Russia is one of them. I'm not sure about Bangladesh, but I can forward the list of all of the countries that do acknowledge them so we can look into Bangladesh. But I know Canada and the USA don't acknowledge the right to live in a healthy environment. So basically, Blue Dot outlines 6 very, very basic human environmental rights that would coincide with living in a healthy environment. And what we're trying to do is spread awareness that we do not have these rights, and that way people will take interest and hopefully help the movement. So what I'm in charge of doing is promoting Blue Dot in our city and hopefully having a city municipal declaration passed. And then from there, it goes to our provincial governments. And then from there, it can be taken to the Canadian government as a whole. So it's a very long-term process, but we're in the first stages now, but it seems to be progressing very well. It's only been around for about a year, so we're just in the first stages.
Excellent, Mackenzie, thanks. And does anyone have any questions right now about Blue Dot? Or we can start with Professor McDaniel, but in Dhaka or in St. Petersburg, feel free if you have any questions about what the Blue Dot movement is, and Mackenzie can explain a little bit more. In Bangladesh, any questions there about it?
He's talking, but we can't hear him.
Yeah, here we go. Go ahead, Golam. It was...
Yeah, better let us listen to him first, then we can have some question. I think it will be wise.
Sure. In St. Petersburg, anything you want to add?
So let us introduce our group. This is a really big pleasure to be a part of this global class. We really enjoyed last global classes, and so good luck for us.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll let Professor McDaniel begin, and then we'll return to this because Mackenzie successfully presented the Blue Dot movement to the Municipal City Council earlier this week in Oshawa and received support. So she's very determined to raise awareness. Anyways, Ed, why don't we give this over to you to help us understand what exactly is a worldview, why is it important, different types of worldviews, and kick this off. So take it away.
Okay, well, thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to young emerging scholars from both sides of the world from where I am. I'm actually sitting in the middle and talking to people on both sides of the world today, and it's a real pleasure. To talk a little bit about worldview, it is a very important topic, and a academic definition of worldview would be something along the lines of it's a set of assumptions about the nature of reality and human behavior that this set of assumptions that an individual has. But I think it's easier to explain it using a metaphor as a pair of glasses, like many of us wear. We see the world through these glasses, and that glasses help us make sense of what we see. So for the intercultural aspect of it, we can look and see that the frames are different cultures. When you go in and buy a set of glasses, you're looking for a set of frames that you particularly like and that you feel is beneficial to yourself. So that's your culture. And then within those frames, we get lenses, and those can be different colors, because within every culture, you have these different variations. And then the prescriptions from one person to the other also vary, and that's important because each person's worldview is characterized by individuality of that person, and it also changes with age. Just as glasses change with age, we change our prescriptions, so does our worldview. It evolves. So with that kind of understanding, basically that worldview is a set of glasses which allows you to see human activities and the environment in a particular way. What influences worldview? Well, you have both a physical and a social environment. The physical environment, I won't spend too much time, but I'll give you an example. I grew up in a very rural area in Texas. I actually grew up on a ranch, a cattle ranch, and farming in Texas. So I like open spaces. I'm very comfortable living in a rural environment where there's not a lot of people. My wife is from Japan, from Tokyo, which you might know is extremely crowded. She really likes the city life. She likes, actually, she thinks San Diego is somewhat small. We only have a little over 2 million people here, as opposed to over 40 million in the Tokyo complex. So that worldview that was acquired at an early age was influenced by the social environment that we grew in, by the physical environment. We also, worldview is influenced by the social environment. And you learn this from your family. You learn it from your peers. You learn it when you go to school. You're constantly being influenced by the social environment around you on what is the appropriate way to view your immediate world. So, for example, in the United States, we're a very individualistic country. I learned that through being socialized, that I have to stand up for myself. I have to be very forceful and speak out. I learned it through competition within the classroom and being in a situation where we're competitive all the time and not having a lot of situations where we had to work as groups. Whereas in Northeast Asia, particularly where I've taught in Japan, there's a tremendous amount of group activity. That's a cultural aspect that's very different from the United States. So for my worldview, individuality and speaking out for myself, being more concerned about my rights as a person than the rights of the group is very important. Whereas my wife, again from Japan, she sees that working together with other people and that human relations, the interconnectivity between people, is the more important perspective. It's more important to care about your relationship with other people than it is to consider yourself first. So she's much more humble than I am. And you can see this play out too in the ongoing conflict, if you will, between China and the United States over human rights. In the United States, we view human rights as the individual is the most important part. Whereas China says perhaps it's better to raise the living standard to protect the greater number of people in society than it is to have the individual's rights protected. So they see that it's okay to deny a few individuals human rights in order to improve the benefits for the society as a whole. And you can also see worldview that you're enculturated in how you view hierarchy within society. For example, in the United States, again, individualistic, we are very egalitarian. Everyone's equal. It doesn't matter the individual's position. We go a great deal of time on first name basis. When you walk into a Starbucks store in the United States, they're probably going to ask you for your name, and they expect you to give them a first name, which they will write down on a cup, and when their coffee is ready, they will shout it out in a very loud voice. Informal and basically equal, whereas other countries are much more prone to hierarchy, a social hierarchy, and probably
can I stop for 1 second to ask a question, because the Starbucks reference is really interesting, and I just briefly in Dhaka, do you have one or many Starbucks in Dhaka? Oh, audio. Do you want to? Yeah, go on. Thanks.
Hello, do you get me? We don't have Starbucks in Dhaka.
How many Starbucks do you have in Dhaka?
We don't have any Starbucks in Dhaka.
Wow.
No.
Very interesting. Very okay. No, that's why we have a global class, because the view often is. Go ahead. Yep.
We don't have McDonald's even. We don't have McDonald's even. But we got Pizza Hut.
And what's interesting is Bangladesh is one of the largest nations in the world by population. How many people in Bangladesh? About 200 million or more?
About 165 billion. 165 million.
Exactly. So the reason I say this is just, and I'll get back to Ed first, let him go, he's making some great points, is many people tend to think that the world is about the United States. And the United States has accomplished a great deal, no question. They're very, very important. But, you know, the fact that there are no Starbucks and there is no McDonald's in one of the largest countries in the world tells us something interesting. In St. Petersburg, how many Starbucks are there?
I think we have quite a lot of Starbucks in our city. It's difficult to count.
And when you go to Starbucks in St. Petersburg, do they ask you what your name is and write your first name down, like Artemi? Here's your, you know, they do.
Yes,
okay.
sure.
All right. Ed, I just wanted to make a point. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, in contrast then, in Japan at Starbucks, they will never ask you your name because it is a much more formal society. They will hand you your receipt, but also the people in Japan will line up in order that they purchased their drinks. And so there's not this competition. It's a much more formal, a much more ordered society. It's very, very quite different. It's quite striking. But there are other aspects that influences our worldview. You know, for example, the time orientation. Some culture, the United States, has a very short time perspective. They don't look so far into the future. We see that in how business is conducted, in that corporations are very concerned about every quarter's statement, their profit and earnings statements. Whereas in other cultures, in Asia, for example, the long-term view is more important than the short term. They're in it for, say, a 30 or 40-year business plan as opposed to worrying about each quarter. Probably one of the most important aspects in many people's worldview is religion. The West is quite secular and many people in the West are quite secular. There are some people that religion plays a dominant role in their life and in their worldview. If you go to the Middle East, the religion plays a much more important role there. And in some countries, it varies and it's constantly changing. The historical memory, I like to talk about historical memory, is very important in worldview. And to give you an example, I like to talk when I'm talking to people from Russia. The worldview of Americans of World War II, when they talk about, American students talk about it, they'll frequently mention that almost 500,000 Americans perished in World War II. And then when you bring up to them the point that, but in the then Soviet Union, somewhere between 25 and 27 million people perished, they're somewhat astounded. So you see this different worldview based on historical memory, in that the United States have been taught where their history was kind of, their role was kind of central in the World War II, and they have not been exposed to the history of Russia, where in Russia the focus is on what the Soviet Union did during the time. And that can play a very interesting and important role in intercultural communication when the two people come together, because they've got conflicting worldviews. The same thing happens in China, in that they are very concerned about their era of national humiliation when they were subject to colonialism by the Western powers. That's a very important historical memory for them, but it is not so well known within the United States and other Western countries. So I'll move on very quickly. Another way of looking to see how worldview is influenced is find a map of your country. Just go and find a map of your country. In almost every one of your different countries, your country, your nation is at the center of that map. And then the rest of the world spreads out around it. Ways of improving our...
Ed, just so you know, we're able to show the map now. So as you refer to the individual countries, Richard has been able to go. So can we just go back a bit for a second so we can address each of the different worldviews? You talk about the Russian world, Russia. We talk about Bangladesh, and we can go to Bangladesh. Anyways, we've already done that, but that's... do you want to go in a wide shot of it?
Well, we could talk about the Bangladesh historical memory going back, and not very many people in the West are aware of the Great Partition in 1947 and then the subsequent divide of Bangladesh away from India. But without a doubt, that's a very salient aspect of the history being taught in Bangladesh. So these are things that influence worldviews, and you have to remember these different historical memories when you're interacting with someone from another country. And that leads me to how to improve intercultural communication, acknowledging that the other person may see things different. In other words, having an awareness that people from other cultures, other countries, can see the world quite differently. And then having a degree of acceptance. In other words, you do not have to agree with another person's worldview, but perhaps being able to accept it. And even in my personal life, I will explain how that affects. I mentioned earlier that the Japanese have a different view on social relations than we do in the West due to collective and individualism. My wife is very, social relations with other people plays a very important role in her life. She does a lot of volunteering. She's involved with a lot of organizations. She's constantly going out and being involved in social relations. I do much less. I'm very happy sitting in my office, reading my books, working on my papers, writing, etc., and occasionally doing something. I'm doing this from my home, too. So we have a very different perspective on social relations, yet we have agreed that it's okay to have these differences, and each of us participates and fulfills that need quite differently, and we understand it. You can also try to gain greater awareness of different worldviews that cultures may have through research and studying, or perhaps going abroad and living abroad, studying in another country. That can also help you. And just remember that when you're engaged in communication with someone from a different culture, they may see things quite differently than you, and that's okay. That's usually okay. So I'll stop there, Lon.
Come back, Richard? Yeah.
I got the mute.
Okay, great. Terrific. That really helps us to understand something that is profoundly philosophical, a worldview, which really does define who we are. There are questions that we're going to address now as a class, and questions you may have as well for us, Ed. But worldview comes down to very basic things, like also, how do you define the difference between a man and a woman? The way you look at gender, how you look at questions of good and evil. Do you believe that your position in life or your station in life is defined by free will, by your own will, or is there a higher power that is sort of guiding you? There are many really important questions that we have in our own hearts and souls that come down to our worldview based on those kinds of conflicts. And so I'd like to be able to open the discussion up to all the students to talk about what this thing is called a worldview. And maybe we can even explore the different worldviews that the students have, perhaps Professor Rahman has in Dhaka, the different worldviews that the students in St. Petersburg may have, worldviews here. You've heard Professor McDaniel give his worldview, and his worldview is very much defined by being an American and being a kind of individual, which is enshrined in the American Constitution. And he gives a great example of how his wife from the East, Japan, has a different kind of worldview based on the traditions of Japanese culture. So worldview is central to our identities. Let's remember that. So let's open this up to questions and a discussion. And let's start in Bangladesh. And let's see if there are any questions there, any comments. And thank you, Richard. We have a great, some technology. We can go straight to Bangladesh. Golem, any comments, questions?
Yeah, thank you. I think the way we are perceiving or accepting the worldview, that means from the point of gender, from the point of other aspects of life, we are very distinct individuals. But at the same time, when we think, because of globalization, because of very recent economic development, and because of satellite technology, a lot of things are getting horizontal, and a lot of things are getting, in the same speed that should reach throughout the world. But just because of different barriers to communication, to different setups and different places, it doesn't reach in the same manner or same way or same speed. That's why the understanding of human being, of looking things in a general perspective, is very much questioned. At the same time, if we think that if it goes like this, within very short time, throughout the world, across the board, the people will be emerging as one species, not very different, creatures in the world. So it seems, but in reality, it may not happen like that, because lot of diversity prevailing in the same time. What do you think, Professor Edwin McDaniel?
Is there? I'll go around. Ed, just hold on for 2 seconds because I want to make sure that we really include the students. And Golem, thank you for that. And you've introduced a term, globalization. You've introduced a term, species, the human species. A lot to talk about. St. Petersburg, Artemi, Ina, others there. Is there anything you'd like to add as we sort of move along, and we'll come back to Ed and my students?
I have read some sentences in the book about, I think, the exact meaning of what is worldview. And so this worldview is a culture's orientation toward God, humanity, nature, question of existence, the universe and cosmos, life, moral and ethical reasoning. And also suffering, death, and other philosophical issues that influence how its members perceive the world. So, I think
you've done the reading.
Think
You did the reading. That's excellent. You've read the chapter and you've prepared.
Yes.
Sorry. What's your name?
Aneida.
It's Aneida. Yes, Aneida. Welcome to the global class again. Ed, do you want to? She's quoting a really important passage that sums up what a worldview is. Aneida, do you want to add anything to that before Professor McDaniel responds?
I think no, that's all.
Okay. Ed, did you get that? She was quoting. Do you want to quote, Aneida, do you want to go back, because I think Ed was taking a note for a second. Could you repeat that? Because that was a critical passage that you were...
Well, I heard her read it, but is there a question? I heard her
okay.
read. Was there a question?
Aneida, is there a question?
No, we don't have any questions.
Okay. Well, I could say something about globalization if you like.
Sure. Yep.
Globalization is a very interesting aspect. I kind of like my worldview is very much influenced by the Taoism. Not that I'm a Taoist, but I just like the way that for every situation there's a plus and a minus. Globalization is indeed uniting making the world a smaller place, but also the ability to communicate and interact around the world is also bringing people that the diaspora, people from different cultures that had been scattered around the world, the diaspora now have the ability to go back and learn more about their cultural roots. And this is happening too. So people that had been diaspora that perhaps had been living in the United States, will take the Armenian community that living in the United States, a large community in the Los Angeles area, they are now going back to, because they can go online, they can talk to people that are still in Armenia, and they can research their roots. So it is also making people more aware of their cultural origins. So it's it's both uniting and it's strengthening cultural origins at the same time. So at the moment, I don't see that we're going to become this greatly homogenized population where everyone has the same culture, the same worldview, etc. We're going to continue to be very much influenced by our own culture, our own history.
Golem, do you want to respond? Or the students there, Professor McDaniel is saying we shouldn't be really worried about becoming this one large species. We will not lose our diversity through globalization. Perhaps the opposite. What do you think?
One thing is there. Do you get me? One thing is there. Just because of this modernization, we still believe in culture. And culture is a dynamic process. When you talk about culture, it's not static. It takes away things from many different perspectives, from many different sources. So it becomes rich. And culture is a dynamic process, but still we think there are heterogeneous culture. And we just cannot think of homogeneity in culture. So we see Starbucks or do we see McDonald's or Pizza Hut or KFC throughout the world. Maybe if it is not here today, tomorrow it will be there. Even in Bangladesh, we may expect Starbucks or McDonald's. That doesn't mean that our culture will be totally eroded by others. Maybe a little bit of invention of culture will be there, but at the same time, there will be distinct cultural identity will be there, I think. Maybe because I don't like career compliment.
Jake? Yep. So in St. Petersburg, for example, do you worry at all when you see so many Starbucks that the United States is going to take over Russia? That might be, maybe just shut the door. Could you shut the door for a second? I mean, I may be asking an unfair question, but I'm kind of lighting a match here.
It's okay. Don't worry.
This is asked in total respect and fairness. But there's a long history of great hostility between the former Soviet Union and the United States, and that's all history now. But nonetheless, I'm just curious.
I think a better way of saying is, if I can interject, is corporate globalization going to erode the Russian culture?
Sure. Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Artemia.
As Anaida said, we have a lot of Starbucks, but she didn't say that we have a lot more our Russian stores and cafes, so we don't worry at all.
Artemi, do you go to Starbucks?
Yes, but I often go to run our Russian stores as Romashka and have a cup of Russian tea. I don't really like coffee.
You don't like coffee. What about Aneda or the other student? Do you prefer Starbucks over a Russian cafe?
Can you repeat your question? Sorry.
Do you prefer Starbucks over a Russian cafe or tea house?
Me not, but I think a lot of teenagers in Russia prefer more Starbucks than any other cafes. Sorry.
What about the other students there? Can we get some comments from them? Just curious.
Yes.
For example, in our area, there are not a lot of Starbucks, so that's why my friends they prefer go to the cafes near our house. So yes, because it is a very long way to go to the center to Starbucks.
Right. What about here? Does anyone want to? We have Tim Hortons, which is a it was a Canadian company. Tim Hortons is a famous hockey player. And in St. Petersburg, you'll like this because I know you guys love hockey too. We've fought you guys in hockey for many years, the Canadians and the Russians. Tim Hortons is a very famous hockey player, right? Tim Hortons was. Do you know about the Tim Hortons coffee chain in St. Petersburg?
I don't know, sorry. I love hockey, but I don't know anything about your cafe.
Tim Hortons. I'm going to give this over in a second to Jacob.
Long.
Yes. Go ahead, Golem.
Long. Tim Horton is not even in Bangladesh. Do you get my voice? Hello. Tim Horton is not even in Bangladesh, but we have got too many tea shops, you know, tea stalls. And tea is very popular in Bangladesh. And different types of
Okay. Okay, this is for Ed. Have you heard of Tim Hortons?
I haven't heard of Tim Hortons as a shop or a hockey player.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting because this past year, Burger King, the franchise Burger King, purchased Tim Hortons, and Burger King is an American corporation. So it's interesting to see how American corporations are purchasing Canadian businesses like that. I wonder if that's happening in Russia, or has that happened in Bangladesh perhaps? Have American corporations bought content or businesses that existed in those countries?
I think we have to be careful, though. Who owns Burger King? Is Burger King really a American corporation? I don't know. For example, Volvo. I drive a Volvo, and I told someone the other day I have a Chinese car because Volvo was bought out several years ago by China. And so it's still made in Sweden. Many people look at it as a Swedish car, but it is really a Chinese corporation. So it's very interesting to see how globalization, corporate globalization, if you will, is changing a lot of the normative cultural aspects within many of the countries. For example, we talk about Starbucks in the U.S. Starbucks and coffee shops in the U.S. where you're serving lattes and macchiatos and cappuccinos is a fairly recent advent. We used to drink we didn't have the specialty coffee drinks. That was imported from Europe. Tea has become more important in the United States now. Most of it imported from China and Japan, and some Russian tea houses. I used to go to a Russian tea house in Colorado. So we see the early phases of globalization starting to change what was the normal culture only 30, 40 years ago.
Wow. So would it be fair to say that corporate globalization, it plays a big factor in our worldview, and not just for us in Canada, but for individuals around the world, in America, Bangladesh, and Russia?
Great question.
Look at the media.
Right.
Look to the media.
And the media is different. I find the media in Canada is very different than the media in Russia and Bangladesh. And, with access to the internet, we're able to see some of the content published in these other countries. I'm able to watch Russian media and see how that differs from Canadian media. So would you say the media is one of the largest factors in our worldview?
I would say the media, but depending upon your age. When you are your family at a young age, your family is the most important aspect of your worldview. When you get into elementary school, education becomes, and then when you get to be a teenager, I would say media becomes extremely important, and media continues to be a factor in worldview, particularly those people that are conscious of fashion and fads in what we wear and what we do, etc. So it kind of evolves along as we go, and then you get to be older and you just don't care about it anymore.
Yeah, right. Ed,
Thank
you're
you.
not that old.
No.
Ed, by the way, just so you know, can you believe he's in his 70s?
May I
Go ahead, Golan, please. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. The thing is, as Professor McDaniel was talking about participation by family and family matters, it means. But even think it is the orientation of the family and how a family individuals takes a different shape by individuals in the family. If we have 5 members in a family of 5 different types of people, so all are not the same. So in that way, the individualistic approach is much more important considering a cultural development. What do you think?
Golem, can I just ask a question of your students? You have students surrounding you for a moment. Could any student answer this question? What is more important to you, your family's perspective or the media's perspective in terms of your ideas and the way you look? How would you, because we've established here something through Jacob's question that is great, that the worldview today that many people have, particularly as they get older, as Ed's pointed out, is defined by the media. But I wonder if that's really a Western thing. If we go east, go ahead. Please give your name. Please give your name.
Thank you, sir, to give us this opportunity. Family is very important part in our life, but also media is important in other side. Family, when we born, family take caring us, then they get educated us, and when I came my university, my father dropped me. It's important for me. It's important for me. In the other hand, I'm a student of journalism department, so media is also important in my life. When I get in outside, there are many problems in our country. Media focus this problem. So it's media also important and family also important. There are no different.
Side by side.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anybody else can give
Go ahead, because I want to ask St. Petersburg too. But I just want to ask you one difficult question, okay? And you're going to have to think for a moment, and then maybe there are students here who want to add, or yourself. What's your name again in Dhaka? I'm sorry.
My name is Shimona.
Shiwana.
Yes,
Shiwana?
Sumona.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Shiwana, I'm going to ask you a difficult question, okay? So if it's not fair, you tell me. But in your family, does your family say to you that a woman is inferior to a man?
No, not like that, because now I'm here. My country now time 9:15. If they thought I'm a woman, and they did not hear me, they didn't hear me. They pick me. So not like that.
Right. Sure.
I enjoy very much, and I think
You are, though, right now the only woman in the room. I see you surrounded by men.
Exactly.
I wonder, when I look at St. Petersburg, I see men and women. When I look around me, there are men and women, or males and females, young men, young women. But Shiwana, I see you as being the only woman, and I'm wondering if that defines your worldview in Bangladesh, that women may not be given the same respect as they are in other parts of the world. Is that a fair question?
May I supplement that?
Sure.
Very rightly, Lon has identified the situation. In university, we have got about 40% female and 60% male. And you see, female have got some restriction in movement, of course. But maybe if I talk about New York or Chicago or even big city of USA, similar trend will be there. Everywhere, male and female do not go at the same time. But country situation in Bangladesh, the females, they can walk around. It's okay. The markets are open for everybody. The shopping centers are open for everybody. even the females are equally or even more crowded in the shopping centers, even till 9 o'clock. So this
Yes.
is not,
So
it's a little bit of cultural situation that we inherited. At the same time, the local respect that given to women, that is also there.
sure. Okay. No, I just is there any in St. Petersburg? Do you want to add anything or any questions or comments you'd like to make as we kind of look at how a worldview can be defined by, of course, your background and your family and others, but when it comes to how we see men and women in society, that's a very important aspect of it. Ed, sorry, go ahead.
I would like to ask Russia a question, if I may. How do you think the Soviet experience, the Soviet era, influenced, or what influence does it continue to exert on modern Russia's worldview?
Wow. What a question. Yeah, go ahead, guys.
Well, in the past, when was the Soviet Union, the church was disconnected from people at all. The people didn't think about the church, they can't think about it. But then the Russia time comes, we start to come back to the church, and it starts to play a larger part of our life. So I think that's a big difference.
Artemi, can you just explain the
for
church?
example-
I didn't understand the one term there. Maybe sorry, Ina, go ahead.
Yeah, for example, my parents, they were born in the Soviet Union, and they never went and never go to the church. And so, as for me and my children and the students, we go to church and we are coming back to the religion, and now it is very important in Russia. They are two different countries, the Soviet Union and Russia, and even now, different parts of Russia, southern parts, they are absolutely different as, for example, people in St. Petersburg or Moscow.
Thank you, Ina. Ed, do you want to add anything to that before? Does anyone want to comment in terms of what they're hearing so far for clarification or anything? I see Mackenzie taking notes. Ed, do you want to address that?
I think, that's very good. It's very insightful. I think perhaps if they reflect on it too, you can see how worldview can change if you look at the different generations in Russia now. My understanding, and I've told this by my friends in Russia, that many of the older people that lived most of their life under the Soviet regime have a very different worldview than the younger generations that have come up after the wall went down, after the 1990s and stuff, when the fall of communists. And that's a good way of seeing how worldview can be influenced by history and geopolitical events.
Sure. Golem, do you want to add anything?
I think our students are talking about the participation of women in our country in politics, in social activities. They are very vibrant. Our prime minister is a woman. Our leader of opposition is women. The speaker in the parliament is women. And many our opposition leaders in politics, they are women. They are politically, involved in each and every activity. At the same time, in our rural areas where literacy rate is low, there also we find that women are getting the empowerment slowly. And that means they are income generating sources nowadays. They are doing a lot of activities, economic activities, by which they are powerful in the society. So it is, of course, it is very recent emergence in the country, very maybe a decade or two. So, but this is a new trend that culturally and empowerment-wise, both male and female are minimizing the gap. Okay.
I have a thought. I'd like to try something, an activity, if I may, with all of us. Would you give me a moment? I'm gonna connect something here, and it's going to be just a second. And I want to see if. Do you want to just put that there for a second? I'd like to get my screen. Just a second. Here we go. This should come up. Great. Okay. You're going to see my laptop screen. You should. Because I wanted to write something together. It's not connecting. It was yesterday. I've got them. What's that? It should connect. Yeah. Just a second. Hold on, because I would like to write something together. Kind of try and summarize a little bit what we've been doing, but for some reason, there we go. Okay, now, just a second. I'm going to bring up. Hold on. I have a document here that I'd like to show all of us. And can everybody, Ed? Can you see this document in front of you that says different worldviews and key points? Ed, can you see that?
I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Golem in Bangladesh, can you see this?
Yeah, I can see. Right.
Okay. And Ina and your class, can you see this document in front of you?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay. I would like to spend the last 10 or 15 minutes of the class together trying to come up with a sort of important points that we could agree upon, all of us, on what has been discussed so far in class. And then I will write this. So, hello, everyone. This is Jason Bourne in Oshawa, 11:18 a.m. And it is now in St. Petersburg. Do you all know who Jason Bourne is in St. Petersburg, The Bourne Identity? Have you seen the movie, The Bourne Identity?
No.
Okay, so this is my American perspective coming out. This is not fair. In Dhaka, have you seen a movie called The Bourne Identity?
No, sorry.
There you go. Forget it. Let's try. You see, it shows how Americanized even we are in Canada. Okay. What are the essential points that have been made? Ooh. So.
Ron went away.
So I just stand by. Durham will probably connect. We'll connect back soon. Also, if I may tell people, make sure your cell phone is on silence or shut down, because that's the noise you can hear. Someone has a cell phone too close. Too close from the system.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. We lost. Let's try again. We're going to get some.
Too much pressure.
Let's see if our. Here we go. Okay. I would like to write for everyone the essential points that were made in today's class. We need to agree on what to write.
Okay.
Okay? So, so what should we write?
We can write we are talking culture.
Say that again, Golem?
We can write diversified culture.
Diversified, okay. Diversified culture. We will post these notes on the website after, okay? So they become a kind of a document that indicates the kind of learning or the insights that we've made. Let's do complete sentences. So, what should we write as a complete sentence? And we need to agree on this. Can you finish this sentence?
Yeah, maybe some other people. Look, diversified culture makes us.
Golem, go ahead. One, and then we'll come back to here. Golem?
Yeah, diversified culture with a sense of harmony. Diversified culture with a sense of harmony throughout the world gives sense of harmony throughout the world.
So the view, the perspective from Dhaka is that diversified culture gives a sense of, yeah, and I just want to increase, I'm having trouble controlling this for a second, but I think just 2 seconds. Yeah, that's the best we're going to get, okay, as a view. So, Dhaka, diversified culture gives a sense. Is that how you would like to summarize so far an important...
Maybe we can rephrase it. Okay. We can
rewrite.
We can bring harmony through diversified culture. We can bring harmony by respecting through diversified culture.
We can bring harmony through diversified culture by respecting diversified culture.
Harmony, diversified culture, by respecting.
And then
something like
even though we do not have a Starbucks and McDonald's in Dhaka. Is that okay? Can I add that, Golem, that comment?
Right. Yes. Exactly so.
Okay. Okay, just a second. Ed, do you understand where I'm going with this? Is it okay?
Yes.
You have repeated diversified culture twice.
Okay. Ina in St. Petersburg, and Artemi and Ineda and others. St. Petersburg. Respecting. Thanks.
Yeah,
I respect. Okay, so in St. Petersburg, what would you like to add?
We are living in culture capital city of Russia, in St. Petersburg. So that's why culture in our city is very high. And we have a Starbucks and a lot of another cafes, but it is for us. It is very important to understand culture of another people, of another countries, of our own culture, and keep it.
Do you want to repeat? Let's try again. It is important to understand other cultures.
For us, it is very important to keep our culture and to understand and respect culture of another countries.
Okay, here is my question. Here is my question to St. Petersburg. How do we keep our traditions while remaining open to the global world? Please answer this question. Oh man. I'm going too fast. St. Petersburg. There we go. Okay, so can you answer that question?
Well, I think that our family, it is a great way to save and keep our traditions and bring them through our generations and take it from elder generations to the other.
Try that again, Artemi. I'll write it. What should I write?
I said, the family is the great way to keep and extend our traditions through and bring it from elder generation to younger. Yes, I really love to visit McDonald's.
Is that fair? Is that fair, Artemi, to write?
Yes, it's okay. It's true.
Excellent. Okay. Now we have to come to Oshawa, Canada, Durham College. What do we think? I am going to stay silent while my students tell me what to write. The camera is not on anybody right now, so you don't have to worry about the close-up. We're waiting. We're going to wait in St. Petersburg and in Dhaka and Ed in we're going to wait to see what happens here. Just for the moment. What should I write?
Through diversity, we can understand the other world or other cultures, but I agree with St. Petersburg that...
Nice. What's your first name again?
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah.
Jeremah.
J-E-R.
You had it right. You had it right. Just people spell
Go
it
ahead,
wrong.
yeah. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
So through...
Yep. You agree, I agree with St. Petersburg.
I agree with St. Petersburg through the family and keeping our own traditions, because if we don't keep our own traditions, what are we as a country? Like, the country will start to change, and then we lose I don't know, like the view of what people think of us. Like, Canadians like maple syrup and bacon and hockey and lacrosse and winter sports and snow.
I don't like any.
Well, that's your own problem.
I'm Canadian.
The general idea. But that's what people think we like. But
excellent. Okay.
Why is the Zoom in so high?
Yes.
Because
he's talking. Go on, Jeremiah. Go on.
Continue.
You're talking.
I have to read
Your head's
what I
still
was
on the way. So, Jeremiah, you start here.
Um,
I agree with St. Petersburg through keeping our own traditions, through our families, for example. If we don't keep these traditions, we lose, and then it starts to get maple syrup and bacon. And
sorry, that went on as a tangent.
Okay.
We lose our own. We can lose our Canadian perspective, but
Identity, maybe?
yeah, that too.
We lose our own identity.
But it is important to learn about the other cultures to do so we are not I don't know what the correct word would be. So we are so we wouldn't. It's gonna be backwards.
No, it's good.
Oh, it's good. Oh, there we
Okay.
go. Just kidding.
Yeah, keep going. Forget that.
It's important to learn about these other cultures because if we don't, then we are naive. That's not the word.
Can I add?
Okay,
Yeah.
just a second. Yeah. Mackenzie wants to add something, and then Golem will come to you in a moment. Mackenzie just wants to add, so do you want to go back to white, Richard?
There it is.
Yeah, great. Mackenzie, go ahead.
I'm also in agreement that it's important to take traditions from our own families because, unlike a lot of the other countries, Canada is a lot younger as a country. So we need to, I think, look to other cultures and examine what they're like because, as a country, we are a lot younger. So, like, identifying with our culture and establishing something that is Canadian is a lot different because I don't know if you guys tuned in on this, but someone in our class just listed a bunch of Canadian culture traits or stereotypes, however you want to look at it, and someone else in the class said, well, I don't like any of those things.
Maple syrup and
Maple
bacon.
syrup and hockey, and they all seem like they're fairly
traditions.
new things, like Tim Hortons and hockey, and these are all modern traits that we would identify with. So looking to another culture seems to just make sense, seeing that everything we do have is pretty new.
Yeah.
In back,
Yeah, I think my students may, one or two may give some of their comments.
Sure, go ahead, please.
We have a popular game, cricket, you know, that and popular cricketer, Sakib Al Hasan. Also, hello.
Yes, go ahead. Shoshana? Shoshana? Go ahead, keep going. You have a popular game?
Yeah, they're talking about cricket.
Area plays cricket.
Keep trying, keep trying.
Don't understand the game.
Try again. We didn't hear everything. Try, please, can you repeat that? And what you just said?
Our cricket is now
It is very popular.
this is very popular. Yeah. Now Bangladesh is giving a great performance, you know. Can you hear me, sir?
So cricket, now on television in Dhaka, can you access through satellite American basketball, Canadian hockey, American football? Are you worried that maybe cricket will become less popular in Dhaka than American football?
No, I don't think so. Cricket is very popular in Bangladesh. Actually, football is also very popular, but American football is not that popular in Bangladesh. This is the reality.
Just
What about soccer?
yeah, of course. So,
And you know, we have got a lot of fans of Brazil and Argentina. And whenever
what one person at a time, only because the voice is it's I'm sorry again. Your how do you spell your name? Shoshana? It's Shoshana?
Shona, it's Shona.
Please spell it for me slowly. S S. How do you spell your name? S. Shawana, how do you spell your name? S.
U F O
H.
M A.
Start again.
S-U-M-O-N-A, Sumana.
Sumana.
Sumana. Very good. Thank you. So Sumana, you are not worried about cricket. Cricket will always remain alive in the globalized world.
Yes.
Even football,
Okay.
soccer.
Good. Okay. And in St. Petersburg, we're going to start to sort of wind things down. We have 10 minutes left. There's some very interesting points made, but Jeremiah has made. I want to read you something that Jeremiah has said, and let's come back to this. Hold on, we're going to get. This is a very important.
I would like to raise a point to Professor McDaniel.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, you want to talk to Professor? Please. Go.
Professor McDaniel. Point is, because of differences of cultures throughout the world, we have got cultural ethos and norms of life, and the value system is very different from one place to another place. So just because of the differences of values, etiquette, ethics, all these things, people behave differently throughout the world. Just because of technology, just because of horizontal way of communication throughout the world, is there any possibilities that soon there will be, minimization of cultural differences, and whether it will lead to a greater humanitarian rule throughout the world? Or, I mean, that cultural differences will minimize and the people will be more unified. Is there any chance like that? Or maybe we'll be strongly identifying our differences between man and woman, between religions, between ethnic differences, and all other things. What do you think, Professor?
I think the short answer is certainly not in our lifetimes or not in the lifetimes of the students. What I hope is that through globalization we will have the ability to understand these differences and, if not accept them, you don't have to accept the differences, but at least tolerate those differences and realize that people see the world differently, they act differently. Now, in some areas, we will see a greater homogenization. My concern is that the globalization and the internet is also, through economic demand, is tending to homogenize language around the world. Whereas English or Chinese is becoming the dominant language of commerce. And that tends to motivate people where, in order to have an equal opportunity, they have to learn another language. And when you learn another language and start using it, you tend to rely less on your own language. And your own language is what really preserves your culture and your traditions. So the short answer is, I don't see this tremendous homogenization of cultures in our lifetime or the next several lifetimes. Maybe someday, generations from now, several hundred years from now, maybe. But I find it rather difficult. I think there's just so many differences, and diversity is what makes it interesting. What makes life exciting, finding new things, new foods to eat, new sights to see, and new ideas. Diversity is, we promote in U.S. organizations because it's more creative. If you get people coming from a single culture, they all think the same. So you don't get a different view, a different perspective. So diversity is what really makes us creative. And if you go to Silicon Valley now, it is indeed like going Silicon Valley in California, San Francisco area, where so much creativity is coming out. It's like going to the United Nations.
So, may may I add one more point like this? Suppose, do you think that at the same time consumerism is also ruling over the globalization? Suppose I'm wearing this shirt. This shirt I bought from Oklahoma, northern city of Oklahoma, and it is made in Bangladesh. So that means that globalization of consumerism makes or maybe rule over culture or makes a shift of new culture or maybe a new genre of culture.
Well, not to sound Marxist, but this is my personal opinion, but corporate capitalism is probably one of the biggest forces that is behind promoting global consumerism, and they tend to try to homogenize marketplaces as much as they can, but at the same time cater to local preferences.
I have to interrupt only because, oh, sorry, I've got it, Richard. So, yeah, because we only have 4 minutes left, and I would like to make sure we hit our time, and it's late in Dhaka right now. What time is it, for example, in Dhaka? Golam and Sumana?
9:41. 9:41
Yeah.
p.m.
So I know you have to get home, and in St. Petersburg, I think it's probably close to dinner time.
Yes, sir.
So you have to get to McDonald's right now, or no, promise me you will not be going to McDonald's for dinner. Okay.
We have got Mughlai paratha, you know?
Mughlai paratha.
Traditional Mughlai paratha.
We have Mughlai paratha. It's very
Great. We will have another global class together, rest assured. I want to thank my students for coming together like this as always. We're going to have a good discussion about this afterwards. I want to thank...
I think our students should name themselves. They can identify themselves one by one.
Please. Now or later? Go ahead, please.
No.
Yes, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Give me an opportunity. My name is Pradap Biswas. I am from English Department in Japanese International University, Dhaka.
Thank you.
My name is Shimona from Daffodil International University, Dhaka.
I am Manal Chakraborty from Daffodil International University, Master of English.
Keep going.
This is Rizvi from Daffodil International University, Dhaka. Hello, this is Shumer from Daffodil International University, Dhaka.
Keep going.
From Daffodil International University, Department of Geography, Dhaka.
Hello, I'm
Yes.
Dipko Debray, and I'm from Daffodil International University, Dhaka.
Hello, my name is Mehdi Sandiloy. I'm from Daffodil International University, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. This is Maru. I'm Media Department, Daffodil International University.
Keep going.
That's over. That's all. That's all.
In St. Petersburg, could you go around the table and identify yourselves individually, please?
My name is Lisa, and me and we all want to say thank you for that global class, and we want to say that it is very important to learn and to understand culture of in our countries. So it is especially very important for young people. So, we take part in global classes in exchanges with Germany, for example, last year. And it is very cool, it is very important. Yes. So thank you and goodbye.
Oh, do you want any other student? Well, you know, I will just, yes, maybe we will stop. I want to make one point. I'll stop you for a sec because our time is crucial now. What just happened with you giving all of your names at the end of the class is a great example of Ed's point around from diversity comes creativity. The global class is gradually evolving a format. And it was only because Golem said, let me introduce the students now, that I got this idea that we should do this at the beginning of every global class in the future, that whenever we have a global class, it should start with all of the students identifying themselves quickly. I could not have come up with that idea had Golem not suggested it. And that's diversity in action. And that means creativity. And I'd like to end on that note because I think it's a very practical, clear example of why diversity is so important on this planet and how we need to respect it. And I think that's exactly what Ed was saying. And I hope we can celebrate this in continuing global classes. And finally, I want to thank Professor Edwin McDaniel, as always, who comes again and again to share his knowledge, his experience, his insights with us early in the morning in California, where it's probably not so easy to even get a glass of water now because they have been suffering from droughts and other problems in California. And so, you know, Ed, I wish I could give you a glass of water, but we're not face-to-face in 3 dimensions, just 2 right now. But anyways.
We had some rain yesterday, and I would like to thank everyone. I always learn more than I give. Thank you.
Thank you. We will see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we do like that. This is the unity.
The symbol of unity.
The unity, you know.
See you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, was it the symbol of unity? Oh, I missed that. The symbol of unity. Yeah. What was it?
Yeah, yes,
wow,
yes.
That's great. Very nice, is it?
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. So, cross like that, like that, and then like that. There you go. Wow, that's powerful stuff.
It's
Thanks.
like 2 hands holding
Yeah.
hands.
Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye. Good night. There. All right, disconnect.